Since most of the folks that we work with are in the space of the public sector and nonprofit, and of course, our private sector customers are not really able to take advantage of those resources. When we're looking at the types of grant programs and grant resources that can be used to address some of these issues and some of these topics, we first ask anybody we work with to look at who they are and the resources that they support. If you're in the healthcare space, of course, there are going to be programs dedicated to healthcare. You want to start addressing your needs from the perspective of how is healthcare being funded to address our needs. If you're supporting law enforcement, first responders, if you're supporting education, you want to make sure that you're looking at the service impact of the organization that you're supporting and looking at federal funding that's dedicated to those resources. That's going to be your first step in determining what is actually available and out there for you. So when we're looking at that first step, who is it that you're supporting and serving, and what impact are those you're supporting and serving making around you? Then you're going to want to start looking at how those funds are going to be dedicated or utilized for those technology projects. And then how are those technology projects supporting those individuals that you're serving? So if we're looking at a local government situation, law enforcement is a major area that has received a boost in funding since COVID, increased crime rates, concerns about public safety. How is technology supporting law enforcement? How is security supporting the ability for local law enforcement, police, sheriff, even other first responders to make sure that they are able to get out to people in need, to securely communicate with one another, to access data and resources in the field? What about those in administration being able to securely access their data and their resources? You also have the expansion of remote working, even within the law enforcement space. You still have plenty of people within administration that work remotely. That adds another layer of security concern. How can you utilize federal funding to help you to get the resources or the support, the consulting resources you need to make sure that you can keep all of those different areas and concerns secure, understanding what is going on, what resources are most at risk, and how you're going to respond to all of that. So for those of us at DOF and how we approach the grant resources, you're looking at who you are and the types of individuals you support and their impact on your community. What is it that your technology is doing to support those individuals, and how does it feed into that? And then after you get to that place, of course, you have to look at all of the different people and resources within your organization that can then help you to go after those programs. Some folks have grant writers on staff that support IT. Many that we find do not. Some folks have somebody on staff that supports the administrative processes of being able to make sure that you understand what registrations and requirements, compliance models are in place that you have to adhere to. A lot of people do not. So we'll come in and we'll assist in that area if that's needed. But if you're fortunate enough to have those resources in place, lean on those grant writers, lean on those award managers that are already in place to help you through that process and to make sure that you are staying on top of what is already coming out. For many states, they have the FEMA programs. Those roll out in the summer. We're getting now into May. A lot of those programs will start becoming available in June, July, and August. If you're anybody within local government, state government, education, those programs are readily available for you. The challenge is going to be, do you have somebody on staff who can assist you with that process? If not, Fortinet, myself, we have teams and partners in place that can assist you through that process. But again, if you have those resources internally, go to them first. That's going to be your Department of Homeland Security at the federal level, and then the state emergency management office at the state level that is going to administer and manage that program. You want to make sure that you're reaching out to them now, because again, those programs have had a lot of change over the last 2 years. We've seen a lot of folks miss out on those programs because the release dates have come down with not a long time, not a large window or runway to be able to respond and apply to those programs. We've also seen some policy changes in that, particularly for the ones that have had the most flexibility to state governments to be able to go in and make changes and determine kind of how they're going to release those funds. So there's a lot to pay attention to with that, but those programs are readily available for cybersecurity. So I want to make sure that we briefly touch on what grant funding can do, how you can approach grant funding and identify grant funding. And again, I have to reiterate, when you're looking at grants, you want to look at the service impact and the ways that your technology and your team are supporting in the delivery of certain resources to your community or through your organization that you're supporting. That's going to be the first step in figuring out if there are grant programs available to you and what those would look like. Then from there, you can start looking at what are the internal resources you have to support that, what types of dollars are available, what are the timelines, and all of that type of stuff. If you don't have somebody in-house, please reach out to us at DOF Creations. You can also reach out to Fortinet. They have an excellent grants team. But just because you don't have somebody on staff doesn't mean that you can't get assistance to go after that funding. There are millions and sometimes billions of dollars that go back annually in unused resources. Just because folks are not aware of what funding is available, or sometimes they get scared because they're alone, they don't have the right assistance, they just assume that it's not going to work out because they don't know who they can turn to. So again, don't allow those dollars to go unused. If there's something out there, we know a lot of IT leaders who have a need. Almost everybody has a need in that space. Please go after it.